We don't care. We really don't care. One of the biggest mistakes digital marketers do, particularly when you're starting your digital journey, is to bring some rants and personal stories right on your YouTube channel, your Instagram, or your TikTok. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the 10 reasons why your personal rants have no place in your digital content strategy. The first is that it dilutes your brand message. When you're building your digital business, what you're doing is you're building a brand. Whether you're using your name, your face, or whether it's a faceless channel, or a brand that you're trying to create. You're building a brand strategy and brand awareness. If you make the mistake of using your channel in order to do rants, you're going to dilute the message of your brand. People won't understand what you stand for anymore, what brand you're bringing to the table, what product you're specifically offering. And so the key takeaway here is stay consistent with the value you promise your audience when they subscribe. The second reason is it might actually alienate your audience. Now think about it for a moment. You're on this channel or on this platform to get information for a problem that you have, and the author or the CEO is bringing in some random personal experience that they had when they were at Walmart or when they were getting their car repaired. Depending on who you are, that might actually turn you off. It might actually alienate you from the channel and from the content that you're trying to serve. And the key takeaway here is always ask yourself, how does this content serve my audience? How does it help them move forward? If you're not able to answer that question, chances are that content should not be on your channel. Number 3, it can actually damage your credibility. When you're going online and when you're using this platform and you're sharing information or you're building that brand, what you're trying to do is you're trying to solve a very specific problem. That's why people access you. They access you because you're adding value to their lives and you're solving problems. If you take a pivot and all of a sudden you're ranting on something that happened to you during the week, you're actually shooting your credibility in the foot because you're no longer leveraging this platform to solve problems, but you're just using it instead of paying for psychiatrists or psychologists. Get some help where you need to and don't use your channel in order to vent. The key takeaway here is to keep your channel as neutral and as value added as possible. Number 4, if you're not careful, you're going to create polarization in your audience. Now, polarization is not always a bad thing. And so what I mean by polarization is, let's use the US elections as an example. Maybe you voted for Kamala Harris, or maybe you voted for Donald Trump. Whatever it is, if your channel starts advertising or promoting one versus the other, unless it's a political channel, you're going to polarize your base, i.e. you're going to split your audience in the middle, and some people will either like your content or hate your content depending on what side of the aisle they sit on. Now, that could be a marketing strategy that you might want to leverage, but in most cases, you don't want to polarize your audience. You want to give all of your audience members value added with every interaction. We know in marketing talk that for people to actually start building trust, they need at least 7 to 12 interactions with you through your digital channels, email, follow-up contacts, and so on and so forth. So you don't want to waste that precious time by splitting your audience in two. Number 5, if you're using your platform to rant, you're actually going to distract from your core content. Core content takes time to create. And the moment you start ranting and using your platform to do other things, you're taking away from your ability to create the content that you've committed to your audience in terms of bringing them value. And that distraction that you're doing is going to cost you time, effort, and it'll be a lot more difficult for you to go back to the core content that you should be serving to your customer base. So your key takeaway here, stay on topic, stay focused. If you want to experiment with a different type of content, do it intentionally. Put a strategy together and stick to it for a few months before you decide to go back to something else. Number 6, and this is a big reason, guys, it wastes people's time. Now, if there's one thing that I've learned in this digital marketing game is that once you start losing people's time, it's very difficult, almost impossible to get it back. So if you're new to the game and you're creating digital content and you want to create a faceless channel or your YouTube channel or whatever it is, what you don't want to do is create content and put content out there that wastes people's time. The same way people can subscribe and share with friends, well, they can also unsubscribe and tell their friend. I should actually trademark that. Whatever the case is, you don't want to waste people's time. You want them to see value, and the way they're paying you, the way these subscribers and your audience is actually paying you and compensating you is by giving you some time. In this ecosystem of distractions, of micro learning, of ebooks, of online entertainment, they chose you. And so you need to honor that relationship. You need to honor that investment and make sure that you're honoring their time by giving them value for the time. Number 7, 7, it reduces engagement and retention. Now, there's a big difference between engagement and retention. You can add subscribers to your account, but you can also lose subscribers over time. And so if you're not careful, you might put a rant out there that generates attention, but it doesn't create loyalty. In the digital marketing space, the name of the game is loyalty. You don't want to be a one-night hit. You don't want to be a one-time success. You want to build a relationship with your audience and add value day in and day out. That's how you're able to monetize in the long game, and more importantly, that's how you're able to build meaningful relationships with your audience. Number 8, it can actually spark negative feedback. Now again, negative feedback is not necessarily bad, because you'll know that interactions, whether it's negative or positive, is actually quite good for the algorithm if you're using YouTube, TikTok, or anything else. But that being said, you want to reduce the amount of potential negative feedback you have. And what you're going to note is that if you have a personal finance channel and all of a sudden you start ranting about a bad experience you had at a restaurant or anything like that, your audience is going to tell you, hey, bro, why aren't you on topic here? Did something change here that we're not aware of? And you want to avoid and minimize those situations where you have these types of negative comments and negative feedback on your channel. Number 9, it actually sets a really negative tone for your brand. Think about it for a moment. If you go to the doctor's office and the doctor is very, very somber and disappointing and upset because of the life experience he had, are they giving you trust? Are they giving you passion for tomorrow? Are they giving you hope and aspirations for what you're trying to achieve? The answer is no. And so if you're not careful, your channel, rather than being a place where people find solutions to their problems, is simply going to be a place where people rant about the bad experiences that they've had. And if that happens, it doesn't align with the core value of the added value that you're trying to add into people's lives. You don't want your channel that is supposed to be problem solving to simply be a place where people get fed negative energy. So you want to avoid that at all costs. Number 10, it can actually confuse your new followers. Imagine for a moment that you have 30 or 40 new subscribers that subscribe to your previous video. And now they get the notification that you've got a new content out, and the content you have is completely unrelated to the topic of your channel or your Instagram or TikTok channel. Well, if that's the case, they're going to be like, what the heck did I get myself into? And you know what they do? They unsubscribe. Now, if they do that, that actually hurts you in the long run because you're not creating that relationship with the subscribers, which is so critical and so key when you're talking about digital marketing. And so by all means, you absolutely want to avoid those situations where you're doing what we call brand dissolutions and you want to use your channel in order to rant about an experience that you didn't have. Now, I'm going to throw a bonus tip out there that's really important to you that you might want to take into consideration. The algorithm that drives your YouTube channel is very sensitive. You have to stay on topic for a very specific number of time for YouTube to know exactly where to push your content and who to push your content to. If you're talking about personal finance and digital marketing, for example, and all of a sudden you're talking about an experience that you had when you were at the garage sale or when you were at the restaurant, the algorithm is going to be confused and won't know where to put your content to anymore. And if that's the case, you're missing on opportunities for reach and for building relationships with new subscribers. I hope you enjoyed this content and that it was helpful and useful for you. More importantly, I want to encourage you in your digital journey. It's one click at a time, one subscriber at a time, and one video and post at a time. I'll catch you on the next one.